After almost 4 years and 3 seasons of high-stakes adventure, daring do, and mystery-filled stories, how do you end a show like DuckTales? It's definitely a tall order. To end the series right, DuckTales has to wrap up everything into one big story that not only tells all the tales they had left to finish, but also solves the show's final mysteries, closes out everyone's storyline, and leaves its characters with a bright future ahead of them.
Everything has been leading up to this.
DuckTales does this the same way it's done everything else, with the devotion of an incredible cast of voice actors who are speaking for a family of beloved characters. They do it with a production crew with incredible wit, joy, and a sense of respect for the classic 1987 DuckTales cartoon and decades of international Duck comics and thousands of stories. And of course, they do it with a central, enduring theme.
Family truly is the greatest adventure of all. Oh no, the ground!
This is the series finale of Disney's DuckTales reboot. This is the last adventure. Sometimes, to tell a story right, you have to start that story off the same way you'd like to see it end. Maybe that's why the final episode of DuckTales doesn't start off with a direct call to adventure or an immediate problem to solve, but instead with the perfect ending: Webby's birthday party. This may be the beginning of our very last adventure with the McDuck family, but this birthday party is also very much the ideal kind of final scene you'd want to see after 3 seasons of getting to know and love a large cast of characters. Everyone is here, from oddball cousins to best friends and close family, and everyone is happy, celebrating, and looking forward to a bright tomorrow. We see family growing closer together, friends celebrating with each other, and a sense of pride in how far they've all come.
Could I get a large cup for water?
That's not water.
Learned from the best.
Even though there's still plenty of loose ends to tie up, and still the entire last adventure to go in this episode, everything about this scene feels almost like the perfect ending to the show.
My very own birthday at Funzo's! How many coupons did you have saved up, Uncle Scrooge?
He actually paid full price.
That said, this is only the beginning of the end. And despite how joyous and perfect it is as a celebration of DuckTales and its characters, it's not even really a birthday party. Not completely.
Did you guys pay full price to throw me a fake party as an excuse for a surprise spy raid?
Happy birthday, Webby!
After all this time fighting foul, losing many of the missing mysteries, and dealing with the threat that the evil organization itself could attack at any time, Uncle Scrooge and his family has decided to go on the offensive, using hints from Launchpad's lost memories of the foul base under Funzo's and other clues to form a plan to infiltrate the evil headquarters, recover the missing mysteries, capture Bradford and the other villains, and end the foul threat once and for all. Huey even made a meticulously detailed plan, right down to disguising a map of the hidden base itself inside the birthday party hats. Unfortunately, Fowl is still one step ahead of our heroes, and manages to escape before the McDuck clan can win the day.
They cleared everything out!
Not quite everything.
Wait, what?
Webby's team was deployed to find the stolen missing mysteries, but instead, they find something else in Fowl's base. 2 young girls in stasis tubes. Fans familiar with the Dutch Disney comics and the recent Three Caballeros cartoon might recognize them as May and June, 2 of a group of triplets best known as Daisy's nieces in Disney history. In DuckTales, however, these characters are more than a gender-swapped alternative to Donald's nephews. There's something else entirely.
Well, they appear to be complete genetic clones of...
They're Webby.
Despite April, May, and June being some of the most requested and anticipated characters to make a cameo in the new DuckTales series, it's an incredibly surprising reveal, and a wildly unexpected way to bring those characters into this show. It also introduces a completely new mystery.
Why would Fowl clone Scrooge's housekeeper's granddaughter? Gyro, you're the genius. What are they up to?
Okay, fine. Honestly, for once, I've got nothing.
I was right there with Huey and Gyro at first. Having two clones of Webby is surprising in its own right. Not only do they look just like her, down to wearing pretty much the same outfit, just in slightly different colors, but they all share a similar, enthusiastic, bubbling personality. It immediately makes us ask a simple question, an instant fan theory about Webby and where that third triplet is. And we're going to get to that, I promise. But not just yet. For now, let's treat May and June as they're presented. Not as legacy Disney Duck characters, but as Webby's clones. Why did Fowl make them? And why are they here? Nobody really knows for sure, but Scrooge, Gyro, and Launchpad all have their theories.
Perhaps they're planning to clone all of us to replace us.
Or they're using clones as an evil workforce to combine all the missing mysteries into a giant ray gun to hold the world hostage.
Maybe they're like putting people in boxes?
Webby is eager to have more family and desperately wants to get to know these girls. But not everybody trusts May and June.
These clones are foul creations and therefore dangerous.
Oh, well, the clones are classified and I don't get to know anything about them, even though they're me. Who wants Froyo?
It's almost like the adults in this family don't even know the children they're dealing with.
Just here to, clean the vents. You know, standard stuff.
I mean, we should probably...
That's clearly gonna become a whole thing. Can I please just finish my show first?
While the adults are busy trying to figure out what Fowl's plan is, Webby is busy trying to figure out who her cloned sisters are. She finds them locked up with a bag of marbles, the same way she met Huey, Dewey, and Louie in the first episode of DuckTales. She's desperate to learn who they are and how they fit into her family. And they're just as eager.
If we learn everything about you, maybe we can figure out why Fowl made us. Yeah! Wait, no! Granny said you should stay put in case you were dangerous. We're not dangerous. We just want to know about you, because we're like family.
Webby takes them to her family board, the collage of photos and strings she used to use to try and unravel the mysteries of Scrooge McDuck's life. Now, she uses it to track her own friendships and her found family. But it's not something May and June really understand. The concept of a family beyond genetic ties, that's something new to them. Webby tries to explain, but they just don't get it, and wind up trying to take the board apart to simplify it.
What are you doing? Helping. May says we're not related to any of these people.
Lena doesn't like this, and after a small fight, June runs off, and the entire situation even has Webby questioning herself and who her family is. And as usual, she doesn't get a straight answer out of the only family she's ever known.
When you find your family, you'll give up everything to help them.
Webby is dedicated to helping her newfound sisters find out who they are, but the girls just don't understand Webby's idea of family at all. Webby didn't have the answers they wanted right away, and they're impatient. They're gonna find out why they were created another way, and they have to steal from the McDuck family to do it.
Director Buzzard left us behind and said if we brought him the missing mysteries, he'd tell us everything. The truth about us. Don't you want to know? Come with us, sister.
Heartbroken by the sudden betrayal of two girls that Webby thought could be her sisters, she has to fight for her life to keep from getting kidnapped, and eventually decides to go undercover as June to try and figure out the truth for herself.
Sorry, June, but I have to find answers. One way or another.
Huey also stows away on May and June's flight, and they wind up at the Library of Alexandria, Bradford's new base of operations, and seemingly the new Fowl headquarters. And although Webby is still undercover, Huey is immediately captured by Bradford. Webby isn't the only person trying to infiltrate Fowl's operation for answers either. Beakley also left on a secret solo mission to try and find out what's going on, and Uncle Scrooge put together his own team, complete with the kids, Launchpad, Della, Donald, Gyro, Fenton, Manny, and even Darkwing Duck. And they all head to the Lost Library of Alexandria together to save their family. From here on out, so much happens in this story that I simply can't cover it all. This episode is packed with amazing references and callbacks to key moments throughout the entire run of DuckTales, comics history, and the 1990s Disney afternoon in general. As each group fights their way into the Library of Alexandria, great character moments drop at a mile a minute. From Gizmo Duck and Darkwing Duck's rivalry, to Scrooge, Della, and Donald reuniting as their original adventuring team. Even though these moments aren't necessarily key to the main plot of this episode, almost all of them are a big moment for their respective characters. While flying a holding pattern outside of the library, Louie, Dewey, and the other kids need to fend for themselves in a time of extreme pressure, leading Dewey and Don Carnage to finally face off on even footing, in an aerial showdown between two pilots. In a fight with Steelbeak, Gizmo Duck and Darkwing are both defeated, and they have to put their differences aside to offer support to something they both have in common: a friendship with Launchpad, who's feeling inadequate alongside his two favorite heroes and best friends. Together, they give him the confidence to realize that he's not any less than them. In fact, he's every bit as much of a hero as they are.
Oh, and what are you supposed to be? I'm a pilot.
And among all of this, somehow the show even finds time to reveal a big secret behind Manny the Headless Man-Horse, by using the power of the blessed bagpipes not only to give him a voice, but to turn him to stone, forcing him to unleash a power he swore he'd never use again.
I live again!
That's right, Manny the Headless Man-Horse is a gargoyle. Or at least, he's this show's homage to Disney's Gargoyles TV show. The truth is, Manny is no Goliath. He's his own equine, with his own goals.
The Headless Man-Horse of the Apocalypse is prophesied to bring about the mystical end of days! People change, man! I just want to be a normal guy with a normal life!
It's truly amazing how many nostalgic nods and throwback moments like this exist in this episode, and still somehow don't stop the momentum of the story. And those story beats are about to get even heavier. After being captured, Huey is sent to talk to Bradford, who reveals himself to be the very first Junior Woodchuck ever, under the tutelage of his grandmother, Isabella Finch. It's a masterstroke of manipulation, in which Bradford connects himself to one of Huey's most respected role models and convinces that eldest sibling that Val's quest isn't evil, but merely a search for knowledge and artifacts, the same goal as any good Junior Woodchuck. And for a brief period of time, it works. At least until Huey wanders off and discovers his friends locked in small, box-shaped prisons. Just like Launchpad predicted, actually.
Maybe they're like putting people in boxes? So, like, the boxes would have 6 sides. Like a box!
Here, a captured Ludwig von Drake and Gandra D reveal Bradford's real plan: to use a rift in space-time to erase all the captured heroes and everything Bradford sees as a chaotic threat from existence. And that's just part 1 of a plot to put a stop to Scrooge McDuck's adventuring forever. And Bradford is on a realistic path to pull it off, too. Over the course of the episode, he captures almost everybody. And the one person he doesn't capture, Webby, is about to learn something that will make her doubt everything she trusts and believes in. While disguised as June, Webby has a chance to interrogate Mrs. Beakley and learn the truth. That she isn't the granddaughter she grew up believing herself to be, but instead a child Agent 22 found during her last mission at a secret Fowl lab. It doesn't change the life Webby's lived, or the fact that Beakley gave up everything to raise and protect her as her own. But Webby is still devastated. She feels betrayed. Like May and June, she doesn't know where she came from or why she exists anymore. She's suddenly just as desperate, frustrated, and alone as they are, and willing to do almost anything to find answers. And Bradford knows it.
Help me get what I'm after, and I'll tell you everything. Welcome home, April.
It's a reveal we knew was coming as soon as May and June were introduced. But despite being able to see it coming, it's still a little bit of a shock. Partially because it's such a unique and unexpected way to introduce the characters of April, May, and June into the world of DuckTales. One that subverts our expectations of who Webby is and truly defines her as a unique character from her 1987 original DuckTales counterpart. But it's more than that. It's also a clever use of both Webby and April's history in the greater lore and canon of Disney Ducks. Not only do Webby and April both tend to dress predominantly in pinks and purples, but in the Dutch version of the original 1987 DuckTales cartoon, Webby was renamed Lizzie for local audiences, which also happens to be the name April goes by in Dutch Donald Duck comic books. So while yes, this reveal is a bit shocking and certainly a major change to both Webby and April compared to other versions of these characters, it's also a surprisingly clever way to give Webby a place in the larger Disney Duck canon outside of DuckTales. A pathway out of the single series she's lived in for the past several decades that not only gives this version of her character greater complexity and depth, but ties directly into the larger international and multilingual community of artists and writers that have built up the world of Disney Duck comics. Believe it or not, that's not the only secret about Webby this episode has to offer, either.
Mustn't dawdle now, April.
My name is Webby.
Your name is whatever he says it is because he created us all and we are this close to learning why.
Bradford promises to tell Webby, May, and June the truth about why they were created and who they really are. Desperate, frustrated, and angry, Webby plays along and approaches an artifact in the Library of Alexandria, and a magical, glowing paper appears before her. But the words written on it vanish before she can read them. As she chases the words in desperation, Bradford finally tells her something about her past.
Why was I made?
Oh, I created you to help me defeat Scrooge McDuck once and for all. And with this, you just did.
For Webby, this is devastating. All she's ever wanted is to be a part of a family, and she became part of Scrooge McDuck's family, only to learn now that she was created to destroy him? But even so, there's more to it. The magic paper Webby retrieved for Bradford was the Papyrus of Binding, a magical document that changes reality to reflect whatever is written on it. But Webby doesn't know that, and she also doesn't know that Scrooge used the power of that artifact to ensure it would be lost to time until one of his own descendants stepped forward to reclaim it. Which means...
No, that's impossible unless... Oh my gosh, no, wait. It couldn't, could it?
Webby isn't just April, of April, May, and June, but Scrooge McDuck's daughter.
May and June were made from Webby. Who was Webby made from?
Why, your old Uncle Scrooge McDuck, of course. You fellas all knew that, right?
It's an incredibly huge, unexpected character change, and something entirely unique in Disney Duck stories. As far as I know, there's never really been a story where Uncle Scrooge has any kind of child as his own. Until nephews and nieces came into his life from other places, he was always too busy going on adventures to settle down. In fact, in most Uncle Scrooge stories, family is almost never his primary concern at all. With the exception, of course, being both the original and newer DuckTales, where Scrooge learns, in both series, the joys of family in a way that changes his life forever. Now, he has more family than ever before, including a daughter of his own. Though he doesn't know that yet. After a series of fights and struggles, Bradford eventually captures Scrooge, but the foul director doesn't use the power of the parchment directly to defeat him. Bradford's plan is to banish everything adventurous from the face of the earth, in hopes of creating a world with less chaos. But he also knows that he can never truly defeat Scrooge McDuck himself, but he can make a deal with him. After capturing Scrooge and his family, and threatening to erase them all from existence, Bradford offers Uncle Scrooge a contract that promises to let the old man live out his life with his family in peace, so long as he never adventures ever again. The final page is to be signed on the reality-altering papyrus of binding itself. Under the threat of losing his family, Scrooge relents, living up to Beakley's description of family from earlier in the episode. When you find your family, you'll give up everything to help them. And Scrooge does, signing the contract and binding himself magically to never adventure again. There's just one problem. Scrooge McDuck's family didn't agree to that.
No more adventures!
Get away from my dad!
Wait, what?
In the final battle, the papyrus's magic shows the family that Scrooge really, truly can't adventure as long as that contract is solid and binding. So to get out of it, they've got to find a flaw in the contract. And they do. And it's easily the most silly, cheesiest way out of the contract ever. But I have to say it's absolutely 100% the most authentic DuckTales reason ever. And something the show has been consistent about since day one.
Scrooge can be with his family as long as he doesn't adventure.
But family is the greatest adventure of all!
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
In a way, Bradford's right. It really seems like that shouldn't work. But the papyrus itself seems to share the McDuck family's sense of adventure and family, and it respected Uncle Scrooge's terms on those words before. But more importantly, it's the thesis statement of this entire show. Ever since day one, Disney's newer DuckTales series has made an overt point of focusing on the importance of family. Not just that it's a group of people who love each other and would do anything to protect and support each other, but that it's something that gives life deeper meaning altogether. DuckTales has always been the story of the greatest adventurer of all time finding that there was one more, bigger, greater, and more important adventure that he never embarked on, and finding it more rewarding than any treasure he's hunted, any ruin he's explored, and any villain he's defeated. Maybe it is a cheesy idea, a silly trope that makes you groan a little in embarrassment, but in a way, that's perfect. Without irony, and with the context of everything this show has ever tried to be, this is quite possibly the most true ending DuckTales could ever have. Family isn't just the greatest adventure of all time. It's what makes an Uncle Scrooge Donald Duck adventure a DuckTales adventure more than a regular Disney Duck comic story. It's the entire point of the show, and I can't imagine any satisfying conclusion to the series that didn't double down on that theme. Even if it is walking a thin line between pulling on your heartstrings and making a dad joke.
Gross.
If I have any regrets, it's that we can't explore this world any further. At least not for now. After 3 seasons, we've experienced these characters in a completely new way, not only learning new things about some old favorites, but also meeting new characters that feel like they've always belonged in this family. With the series finally at an end, we're left only to imagine what's next for them, how all this new information would change them, and how Scrooge McDuck might change in learning that he's more than just an uncle. He's a dad. Even so, we don't have to worry too much about our friends in Duckburg. They'll be alright, and we know it.
You don't have to worry about us, Uncle Scrooge. We're smarter, we're tougher,
we're sharper,
and we'll earn our way square.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
As for me, I guess this officially ends my 4-year-long journey to review DuckTales. I never actually set out to do that, but here we are. I'll talk more about this later, but it's truly been a journey. I've made amazing friends both in the community and among the show's crew. Thinking about the show has changed how I think about media, critique, writing, and life in many ways. All I can say is thank you to everyone who came along on this journey with me. And thank you to everyone who worked on the show and poured their hearts into telling these stories. We'll talk soon. Until then, take it easy, and thanks for the adventure.